What is a condo board application in New York City real estate? We will demystify this topic in the following video. I'm Nick at Hauseit. We are the largest for sale by owner and buyer agent commission rebate company here in New York City, established in 2014. Visit our website, hauseit.com, to learn about ways to save money when buying and selling real estate, and feel free to check out our buyer and seller closing cost calculators if you have a minute. So, what is a condo board application? This is a rather confusing topic because most people in New York are under the impression that it's really only for cooperatives that an application is required. Well, the short answer is that both condo and co-op apartments usually require a purchaser to submit an application to the board of managers. It's almost 100% likelihood that this will be requested for a co-op. In fact, we've never come across a co-op that doesn't have an application of some sort. But for condominiums, it's a little more flexible. Your typical mid or large size building will usually have a pretty robust application. And even for smaller buildings, even if they're self-managed, there may be some sort of paperwork that the purchaser will need to fill out. What is included in a condo board application? Well, the most common type of condo application in New York is going to look a lot similar to what you'd find for a co-op. More specifically, the application will usually require submission of a number of documents, such as a financial statement, a few years of tax returns, a few months of bank statements, some reference letters, possibly business and or personal letters, as well as a bunch of signature pages in addition to an application fee. One thing's for sure, if a condo has an application, you will be asked to pay a number of fees. There will be an application fee, usually a few $100s, which goes directly to the managing agent, and there may also be a fee which goes directly into the coffers of the condominium. You may also be required to submit a move-in deposit or a non-refundable move-in fee, or both. Now, as we mentioned, your typical condo building will have some sort of application, but what specifically they ask for varies by building. You may find a condo building that actually thinks it's a co-op, in the sense that the application is substantially similar to what a comparable co-op would request. And by substantially similar, we mean every single document you'd basically have to submit for a co-op will be requested by the condo. Tax returns, bank statements, reference letters, the whole range of things you'd expect with a co-op. More flexible condos, on the other hand, may just have a credit check, or they may have a very basic application that really just asks you to provide information about the transaction, such as the purchase price and the attorneys on the deal, as well as the contact information of the buyer and the seller. The main difference between a condo and a co-op purchase application is really the actual process after you submit the application. Co-ops, of course, have discretion as to whether or not to approve a purchase. They don't have to provide any reason for rejecting a buyer as of this filming. Furthermore, a co-op is not bound by any particular timeline as it relates to reviewing an application and making a decision. We've seen co-op boards take 3 months to respond to an application. Conversely, we've seen some co-ops take a matter of a few weeks or days to respond to an application. Admittedly, in the case of the latter, the seller was previously on the board and had a very good relationship with the fellow and current board members. So essentially, with a co-op, you submit an application and you basically have no idea whether or not you'll be responded to in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or 8 weeks. Admittedly, most co-ops do indicate 4 weeks as a guideline, but again, this is not binding. Condominiums, on the other hand, are required to review and respond to a purchaser's application within a set period of time. More specifically, the amount of time that a condo has to review a board application is determined by what is in the building's offering plan. Now, what is an offering plan, you might ask? Well, in simple terms, it's a very big document that has a bunch of information about a building, which is filed with the state when the property is first sold. Here's an example of an offering plan. As you can see, it's a very thick document. This one is about 350, 400 pages, and they're very costly to produce. So if you don't have an offering plan and you need to get one when you're selling, you would actually need to contact management, and they usually charge you a few $100s to print one. More recently, it's common for there to be PDF or digital versions, but if you don't have a copy, management may still try to charge you for it. But going back to what we were mentioning about the timeline, within this offering plan, there is a particular language that determines how long the condo has to respond to a purchaser's application. and here's that language. In the event the Board of Managers or its designee fails to notify the offering unit owner of its decision to accept such offer within 20 days after receipt of notice as aforesaid, or to notify the offering unit owner within such 20-day period of its decision not to accept such offer, the offering unit owner shall be free to contract to sell such unit or to lease such unit as the case may be within 60 days after the expiration of the 20-day period in which the Board of Managers or its designee might have accepted such offer. Now that is a lot of jargon, but at the end of the day, it means the following. Basically, every condo building in New York has the right to purchase an apartment that's for sale in the building at the same price that the prospective purchaser is willing to pay. This is called the right of first refusal, and it's not utilized hardly at all. The reason is that most condo buildings simply do not want to or cannot afford to buy another apartment in the building. They just don't have enough money in the reserve fund, and there's very little appetite for purchasing apartments. The main purpose of this is really to prevent a fire sale, a classic sale that is below market value. For example, if somebody has a property that's worth $1 million and that person perhaps is going crazy, maybe they decide to sell it for $100,000 because they need the cash. Well, in that case, this sale will devalue the apartments in the entire building, and in this instance, the condominium may essentially consider to actually buy this apartment for that same price, $100,000. They have the right to do so. So that 20-day period we mentioned governs how long the condo has to either A, purchase the unit, or more commonly, issue a waiver of the right of first refusal, where the condo waives its right to purchase the apartment. And you cannot close on a purchase of a condo until you receive that waiver from the condo. So the good news is that this language here for this particular building essentially says that if you don't hear back from the condo within 20 days of submitting your application, you essentially don't need the waiver and you're allowed to just proceed with the closing. The case is certainly not similar for a co-op. With a co-op, there is no such language. You have to wait essentially indefinitely for them to get back to you. We hope this video was helpful in deciphering what a condo board application is here in New York City. If you have any questions, leave us a comment or send us an email, team@hauseit.com, and check out our website, hauseit.com, to learn about ways to save money when buying and selling real estate here in New York City. We hope to see you on the next one.